Today, we are tackling a topic that's pretty much guaranteed to pop up on your Series 7 exam, municipal bonds. We're going to break down all the key differences, the rules, and the lingo you need to know to absolutely nail these questions. All right, let's get started.
So, before we dive into all the regulations, let's start with a really simple question. Every time you drive on a public road or you see a new school being built, you're actually looking at the work of municipal bonds, or munis for short. They are, in a very real way, the financial engine that builds the world right around us.
Here's our game plan. We're going to follow the journey of a muni bond, literally from the moment it's created to its life out in the market. And we're going to cover exactly what you need to know for the exam.
So why do munis get so much attention in your exam prep? Well, it's because while they might seem pretty straightforward, they operate under their own unique set of MSRB rules, and these are different from corporate bonds or government securities. And that's exactly where a lot of test takers get tripped up.
Okay, let's be super clear on this from the start. These are not corporate bonds. When you buy a municipal bond, you're essentially lending money to a government, a state, a city, you name it, for things we use every day. We're talking parks, airports, and yeah, even the sewer system. All right, now for the first big decision an issuer has to make. What kind of bond are they going to issue? This right here is a classic exam topic, so let's really dig in.
A good way to think about it is like this. A general obligation bond, or a GO bond, is backed by the issuer's entire salary. That's its full faith, credit, and most importantly, its power to tax you. Because of that big promise, they almost always need voter approval. On the other hand, a revenue bond is only backed by the money made from a specific project, like a toll bridge. For those, investors don't care about voter approval. They want to see a feasibility study that shows the project can actually make enough cash.
And this table here really breaks down those specific sources of repayment. For your exam, you absolutely have to connect GO bonds with broad tax revenues, like property taxes, and revenue bonds with specific user fees from a project. Oh, and one more thing. Revenue bonds also have these things called covenants, which are basically promises to the bondholders about how they're going to run the project.
Okay, so the bond type is decided. Now what? How does it actually get sold to investors? Well, this brings us to the primary market, the group of firms called the syndicate that sells the bonds, and a really important rule, MSRB Rule G-11. So during what's called the order period, the issuer sets up a strict pecking order for who gets to buy the bonds first. The best analogy is like boarding an airplane. Those pre-sale orders, they're like first class. They get on first, all the way down to member orders, which are for the firm's own trading account. And they get whatever's left. They're the last to board.
And here it is, your exam alert. This is probably the single most important thing to remember for order priority questions. The issuer, not the syndicate manager, not FINRA, the issuer sets the rules of the road for who gets the bonds and when.
So now the bonds are being sold. How do the dealers have to behave? Well, there are two key MSRB rules that govern their conduct, and you need to know both, G-21 and G-37. First up is MSRB Rule G-21. This one is all about the standards for advertising and really any other communication they have with the public.
The core idea here is really simple. Everything you say has to be fair and balanced. For the exam, just remember this little phrase, G-21, get the ad done fairly. That's your North Star. Just don't be misleading.
Okay, next up we have the super important pay-to-play rule. This is G-37. This one is a really big deal for the exam.
So, this rule is all about preventing firms from winning underwriting business by making political donations to the officials who hand out that business. The mnemonic is super easy. G-37, don't pay to play. It's all about preventing corruption and just keeping a level playing field.
All right, the bond has been issued, it's been sold, so what happens now? Let's talk about the bond's afterlife and the central hub for every piece of information about it.
For the exam, you absolutely have to know about EMA. It's the MSRB's free, public website for literally everything related to municipal bonds. And the mnemonic is great. Ask EMA for the Muni drama. Think of it as the official library for all disclosures.
And here's why it's so important. EMA is where investors and financial reps go to find the critical info they need to make suitable recommendations. I'm talking everything from the initial offering documents, called the official statement, to ongoing financial updates that issuers have to provide.
Whew! We have covered the entire journey.
Now, let's lock in the key testable facts with a little rapid-fire review. This slide right here is basically the summary of the most frequently tested concepts we just talked about. If you're making flashcards at home, this is your template. Burn these points into your memory.
All right, time to test that knowledge. A GO bond is primarily backed by, what do you think? The correct answer is B. GO bonds are backed by that broad taxing power, like ad valorem property taxes.
Okay, question 2. In a new issue, who sets that order priority, that pecking order? The answer is B, the issuer. Remember that exam alert? The issuer is always in charge.
Let's see if you remember the rules of the road. Which rule governs advertising? The correct answer is A. Rule G-21, our fair and balanced rule. And for our last question, what exactly is EMA? The answer is C. It's the MSRB's public site for all things Muni. So just remember, understanding this whole journey, from how a bond is backed to how it's sold and tracked, it's not just about passing the test. It's about understanding the financial blueprint of our communities. And if you can grasp that, those exam questions are going to feel like the easy part.